Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Health Begins with Mom podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in into today's show and into the other shows if you've been following this podcast for a while. I always love connecting with the listeners of this podcast. I feel like you guys are such an inspiring group of women who are so curious about this new dimension of taking care of yourself and really learning how. Because let's be honest, we haven't been taught that. So today on a podcast, I want to talk about making the decision and show up for yourself. Because if you don't, no one will. The more I talk to women, the more I realize that, and also obviously from my own personal experience, I understand that it is really up to us to define what it is that we want for our life. It is up to us to sort through the clutter and find those maybe 5 or 6 core values that move us in life. What are those things? What are the things that you stand for? It is up to us to create our life by design and then live by it and show up for ourselves, for our families, for our work in the world from these values. Recently, I had a phone call with a magical woman who is not a mom yet, but really craves to be. She craves to be in a relationship. She craves to become a mom. And she shared with me that over the past 10 years, she's noticed an interesting pattern of attracting men into her life that are not good for her. And the thing is that she always knew that these men are not right for her. Like there is this almost like a soul ache that is screaming and saying, not this is not the right person for you. And yet she still stayed and she still tried to conform and tried to mold herself to fit to these men, and ended up wasting a lot of time. And this is heartbreaking for me. And this has nothing to do to the fact that to the biological clock or anything like that. Although that is a factor also in her situation, but the most important thing is that she has recognized a recurrent theme in her life, that she doesn't make the right choices for herself. And here's the thing, guys, and this is a quote by Albert Einstein, the genius. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Now think about this. You have been doing certain things in your life, whether it is with your health, with your relationships, with your parenting, with your mindset. You've been showing up or doing life, right, quote unquote, in a certain way in your life. And it's a great opportunity to ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I doing? Do I love my life? Am I proud of myself? Am I living up to my fullest potential? What about my children? How are they? How is my parenting style? How is my marriage? guys, I want you to understand that if we don't show up to our life in this kind of deliberate way, then and I see this a lot, and I'm sure you too, we will end up finding ourselves in our 60s and even 70s looking back and saying, what the heck just happened? Where did all this time went? And I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything that matters. I haven't created my life and my family and my work in accordance to my values, in accordance to how I want to show up in this world, and I don't feel proud of myself. And so how much longer? How much longer will you keep spinning in the same wheel, in this, some people call it the rat race, right? It's a rat race. We're busy, we're constantly doing something, but is this doing yields activity that is actually high leverage for you, that is actually in alignment with your values? So for today's podcast is going to be super short. I've been trying to find a time and a quiet space to record this podcast for you, but since my daughter, my little baby, is still home with me and the kids are off for summer, it's been quite challenging. And so I'm coming back home right now from my yoga class, and I decided to record this for you. So it's going to be short, but it's going to be, I want you to still take action on this, right? So I want you to go to your journal. I want you to brainstorm 5 core values, right? So if you're familiar with the work of Danielle Laporte, she talks about core desired feelings. So these are feelings, right? This is how you want to feel in your body. This is something else. I'm talking about your life's philosophy. And this life's philosophy is going to guide you. This is your inner compass, right? With regards to how you create how you're taking care of yourself, your body, and your mindset, your spirit, how you're taking care of your family and your marriage and your relationships, and then you're going to go another layer outwards, and how are you working or showing up in the world, maybe in your community, anything that is outside of your own personal family unit. How are you showing up there in alignment with your core values? So this is a great exercise that I walk my clients through. It's called The Values Factor by Dr. John DeMartini. I encourage you highly to grab that book. It's called The Values Factor, and it's basically a workbook, and you can just go through the book and to help yourself to drill in on these values, because if you don't, time is ticking. And here, it's not really a biological clock, it's the universal clock, and time is ticking and times go by, and before you know it, you look 6 months, you look at yourself 6 months ago and you're like, I haven't accomplished anything, right? And so ask yourself, this is how I want to feel. These are my core desired values, right? I want to feel strong. I want to feel alive. I want to feel vibrant. I want to feel fierce. I want to feel trusting. I want to feel healthy. These are your core desired feelings. And then what are your values? So for example, for me, my number one value is to have a clean personal space. What does this mean? This has been a recurrent theme in my life, and this has always won over relationships, parenting, anything. I need to have my space clean. I cannot live in clutter. So this is a very important value for me. And why is it important? It's important because before I sit down to work, before I take care of anything, before I start cooking, before I start taking care of my kids, before I leave the house, before I start anything, I need to make sure that my house, my personal environment is clean. It's organized. So this is value number one for me. Value number two For me, it's my marriage. It's really taking care of my marriage, of my relationship with my husband. This means that I am actually actively, deliberately, with intention, going to carve out time to connect with my husband. So, and if I feel like, oh my gosh, we're not connected, we're, growing apart, then again, think about this. Who is going to fix that? Like, is salvation going to just fall on you from the sky? No, it won't, right? So you have to do something. You have to take deliberate action in order to manifest the life that you want with your partner. These are two of my examples. The other value that I have is health. Well, obviously, my podcast is called Health Begins with Mom. I value health very much. Your physical being, your just your life and your journey inside of your body, right? I see a lot of people, especially in the personal growth world, they do a lot of work on their mindset and on the internal world and thoughts, and this is great. But I see a big component that is being missed out on, and that is the body, working with the body. And I mean, like, come on, man, we live inside of this physical realm. Yes, some people believe that, and I believe in it too, that one day we will sort of like transition out of this body and out of this physical body into higher realms, the spiritual world, whatever it is. But right now we live in this body, we reside in this body, and the way I see it is that we live inside of a vessel. And this vessel, it's almost like your home, right? You always, like for me, my first value is to keep my personal space clean, right? And so it's the same thing, right? It is our responsibility to take care of our bodies, to take care, to feed ourselves right, to make sure that we're hydrated, to make sure that we eat food that is in alignment with our physical body, especially as women, right? Because the female body works differently than men. I talked about this a lot on the podcast. Our physical body is on a cycle, and the cycle is it culminates every 30 days, and every it's not very accurate, but about every week our hormones change, and we should be eating in alignment with these changes of our hormones of the body. And so I feel like as women, we must learn how to feed ourselves in a way that is almost like strategic. I know it's a masculine word, but strategic, so that we have the energy and have the fierceness and the stamina to get on with our day and to thrive and to show up the way we want in our, just as a woman and as a wife, in our marriage and relationships and in our parenting with our kids, right? It all starts with first learning to take care of yourself. And so that magical mama, that magical woman, the conversation that I had with her, I walked her through almost like a meditative process, and that is, by the way, such an important component of coaching, because what coaching does, it's, I don't tell you what you need to do. I do not answer the question. I don't answer for you. My job is to ask you the right questions, the questions that you maybe never even dared to ask, or maybe even you don't know to ask. And so the coach is almost like it's almost like working with the mirror, right? Standing in front of a mirror and reflecting your true self back to you. And so that's how it looks like to work with a coach. And so I walked her through this meditative process, and I asked her, what's going on? And she described to me, I keep attracting these men into my life and I know that they're wrong for me and I keep wasting time. Okay, then why? Why do you think? What's going on? And so we keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually, the last point was, I asked her why. Why do you do this? And so she told me that she finds herself in an abused relationship. She keeps finding herself in an abusive relationships. And the turning point for her was, and that's when she actually became emotional and started crying, which is a great sign for me as a coach because I know that is the truth. She basically said, I asked her, who is the abuser? Really, like if you think about it, who truly is the one abusing you? And then she told me, it's me. It's me because I agreed to this. I say yes to this. Right? And so that was a very pivotal moment in this coaching session. And then eventually I asked her why. Why do you do this? And she said, because I don't know how to take care of myself. Because I don't know how to take care of myself. And I say this and I become emotional myself because this is so true. A year and a half ago, even 2 years ago, I didn't know how. I didn't know. I felt like my world is crumbling. I felt like everything is falling apart. I'm not proud of myself as a wife. I'm not proud of myself I wasn't proud of myself as a woman. I wasn't proud of myself as a wife and as a mother. And I felt completely hopeless, helpless. And I felt a lot of this victim mode inside of me, residing inside of me. And I didn't know what to do. And so the thing that I shared with her, and I said, listen, you can keep reading all the books, you can keep listening to all the podcasts, but remember this, the free information that you expose yourself to is only inspiration. The free information you expose yourself to is only inspiration. But if you truly want to change, then you must work with a coach because that is the only thing that will provide you with transformation. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Free content, free, reading a book, listening to podcasts, reading blog posts, all of that, looking up videos on YouTube. That is great. That is the first step, and I encourage you to do that, right? Because you have to start with something. But that will only provide you with inspiration. This will not give you a transformative experience. Because if you truly want to change, you must take action, and you must completely surrender and allow yourself to be guided by somebody. It's only when you invest, actually financially invest into a coaching program, that is when you are going to experience transformation, because you must have some skin in the game, sweetie. My love, you have to have some skin in the game. That is the only way you're going to change, and that is the only way you will actually look at yourself back and say, holy shit, I did it. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. I feel like I'm growing. I feel like I'm expanding. And that is what I want for you. Right? It doesn't have to be with me. If you resonate with a different coach, go for it. Go for it. I remember a year and a half ago, I was exactly at that space. I felt like I was reading, and I do. I think I showed you in one of my Facebook Lives a video of my library. I have a huge library because I love reading, and my husband too. And this is actually another one of our values. Together, that's the next step, right? Creating mutual values as a couple, as a married couple. And so one of them for us is to have a huge library in our home, because we value learning and studying and education, and we have a huge library. So I read, I think, all the books, and I love listening to podcasts, but I still felt like I know the answers, but I don't do the work. And in order to do the work, you must do what I did. But that's what I did. I invested thousands of dollars into having somebody to be accountable for me. She waited for me every single week on our coaching calls, and we just we worked, and I expanded, and I actually did those things that I was procrastinating and felt like a failure that I don't do. And that is how I have experienced transformation in my life. And that is what I advise you to do as well. So if you feel like this is something that, almost like, oh yeah, sounds amazing, I want to know how to do the next step, I invite you to try this new thing that I'm offering. This is completely free. It's called a Diva Date, and I call it a Diva Date because I believe that as women, we are divas. You are a diva, I am a diva, we're all divas. And so it's a 45-minute phone call conversation with me where we talk all about you. We talk about your goals. We talk about where you see yourself in the next 6 months. What is your plan? How are you going to get there? What will happen if you don't get there, if you don't transit, if you don't transform? What is the cost in your life? Important thing, this is not a sales call. This is not the point of these calls. Although if you want to know how to work with me, I'm happy to share that, but that is not the purpose of these calls. The purpose is to help you to feel like you're heard. So many women tell me that they were growing up, they were always seen but not heard. And one of the things that I want to create in my business is just, to give you the opportunity to feel heard, because healing comes from that. You already know, you have everything inside of you that you need. The next step is to take action. It's almost like having somebody to mother you for a short period of time, to teach you how to stand on your own, and then you will cruise through it. But first, allow yourself to be mothered or coached by somebody who is a little bit maybe further ahead of you in this journey, and then you will see how you are able to cruise through life a little bit easier. Although I personally believe that this journey is a never-ending journey. Right now, I'm actually working with my second coach, and I believe that I will always do that. I believe that I will always invest in myself. I will always grow. Even though I feel like I cannot afford it, what I really cannot afford is to stay stagnant and to not grow. This is by the way another one of my values, is that I must be always growing. Learning and growth, it's like I just feel like I'm not alive if I don't. And so if this resonates with you, please hop on the call with me first. So you can go to my website, www.healthbeginswithmom.com/diva, and at the bottom of the page there is a booking page. So you click on that and you're gonna book a Diva Date with me. So again, it's 45 minutes call, completely free for you, and it's all about you. Okay guys, I'm sending you so much love and so much healing, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.